As Eric just said, I'm Beth Peluse, the Conservation at Home Program Manager with the Conservation Foundation. I work closely with Jim Kleinwachter, who's the director of the program too. I don't know if any of you know him. He's been around a good long time and was the one that actually founded the Conservation at Home program. So before starting our presentations, we do like to acknowledge we try to be the best stewards as we can to our earth. But we do acknowledge that we aren't the first to do so, that there's many indigenous peoples that came before us, thousands of years before the European settlers came, that we're an excellent example of how to be a good steward. So we try to respectfully follow their legacy and try to help people learn how they can do that on their own as well. So if you haven't been down there, our headquarters are in South Naperville at McDonald Farm. We have 60 acres right in the middle of a very, very busy suburban area. It's a little oasis, actually. It's kind of nice when I'm driving. I live in Lombard and I drive to Naperville, and it's the craziest traffic that's right there, and then it's nice and calm once you pull onto our gravel driveway and leading up to the houses here. This is an old photo of the farm, but it kind of just shows. So Lenore McDonald had donated her property to the Conservation Foundation.
So you have it all?
Yep, we have all 60 acres, and it's under a conservation easement now because she did not want her family's land to turn into what's around it, which is a lot of developed housing areas. But you could literally see the street that would have cut straight through her farmland had she not helped to conserve this land. But we are open to the public Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. So we welcome anyone to come and stop by and take a visit. We have some demo gardens to see: a pollinator garden, rain garden, a native prairie. We also have different demos of green energy, so we have a wind turbine, some solar panels. We have a really neat rainwater collection system that collects all the water coming off all the roofs on our buildings, and then some, to collect 25,000 gallons, which then are then repurposed and used to water our crops. And everything's organic. We do have a CSA program. We also on Thursdays have a farm stand, so if you want to come stop by from 3 to 6 to pick up whatever's been picked that day or a few days before, you can swing by and grab those too. So we are your local land trust, which basically means we try to save as much green space and waterways as possible. Our mission is to improve the health of our communities by preserving natural areas, protecting rivers and watersheds, and promoting stewardship of our environment. So on the map there, it's a little bit small, but you can still see all the dots that are on there. And each one of those dots is a piece of land that we've been able to help conserve, which is now over 36,000 acres and counting. Every year we're trying to preserve some more. And so for the actual Conservation at Home program, so Jim set this up as a program to really be a resource for homeowners and individuals looking to take steps to be more sustainable within their own yards and green spaces. So really encouraging individuals to look at their yard on the bigger picture of what they're doing in their small space and how that impacts our greater ecosystem. So including what plants you're putting into your gardens, how you're using water, the soil health of your area, and how that's impacting the greater ecosystem. And so with the program, we actually offer free yard consultations to anyone who would like one. We try to meet people wherever they're at on their kind of environmental or sustainable yard journey, if you will. If you are already doing a lot for your yard, we actually have a checklist of things, about 20 or 25 items that are on there that if you're meeting those requirements, you can get your yard certified as a Conservation at Home yard. And we aren't looking for absolutely everything to be checked off. We have 4 different categories, so we're looking for about 8 to 10 checks total, but at least one checkbox in each of the categories being like water conservation, wildlife habitat, diversity in native plants, that sort of thing. But if you're not there yet and you're looking, let's say you're just starting out, or you have a garden already, but you're not sure where to start implementing more sustainable practices, that's where we can come and help walk through your yard, identify what plants, rain barrels, what can be done within your specific yard, because sometimes you can read or watch a video about what different native plants or different gardening techniques, but then you walk around in your own yard and you're kind of, at a loss of where to start or what to even approach first. So that's where we come in to be helpful, and we try to provide as many resources as possible too. But also we do, I just realized, sorry, I had to use a thumb drive instead of my normal thing, and so my formatting's a little off, so apologies for the titles. They're going to be kind of maybe a little funky. But we also do presentations in the greater community to try and help give people ideas of where they can help out in their own spaces. So this map is showing actually all of the yards that we've certified. All the red ones in the lower left-hand side are from the Conservation Foundation, but we've actually grown the program to include 8 other organizations throughout the region. So other organizations in Illinois, as well as one in Wisconsin and one in Michigan, that run this program as well within their own communities. So we really focus on Kane, Kendall, DuPage, and Will counties, and then a little bit on the outskirts there. So there are other organizations that are running it in different areas then to really help promote that kind of individual take on sustainability. So Illinois is actually known as the Prairie State, or I say that formerly known as the Prairie State, because we originally had 21 million acres of prairie across our state, and now we're down to 0.01, so not even 1% of that prairie land. And majority of our state is privately owned versus publicly owned or governmentally owned with state parks or something like that. So that's also another reason why this program, the Conservation Home Program, is so important. So the more individuals can actually do sustainable practices on this private land that's out there, the greater it is for the ecosystem. We can be building these wildlife corridors that then connect to these bigger pieces of land that are our parks, our forest preserves, our state parks, and kind of into the bigger picture too.
Question?
Yeah.
Is the Schweitzer Woods part of one of the ones you partner with?
That doesn't sound familiar. We might partner in a lot of different ways, so I'm not saying we haven't partnered with them, but they're not necessarily one that we mainly partner with. Do you know any?
So the Galvin property that was just purchased connects the Schweitzer property.
Yes.
So it's kind of what Beth is talking about, is like a corridor to the larger properties, and it all kind of comes together.
Okay.
But Schweitzer is not directly with the Conservation Foundation, but they're adjacent to a property.
Because they're doing things there too, and we've supported some stuff that they do.
Great to hear. So we are trying to also work with more national organizations as well, and so kind of the campaign that they've come out with is this Humanity for Habitat, so kind of flipping the Habitat for Humanity. So not only taking care of our human neighbors, but also taking care of our feathered, scaled, and furry neighbors as well, and what you can do to help them in your own yard. And really what it boils down to is that you don't have to rip up all of your lawn and plant only native plants and only do, kind of the perfect situation of what an eco-friendly yard would be, but even taking little steps can make a big impact. And so the U.S. Forest Service actually did a study a few years ago where they were kind of trying to measure what small steps in suburban areas mean to the local ecosystem. So even just cutting down on the number of times that you mow, so rather than doing mowing every week of your lawn, mowing every other week, they saw in the area that they were in an increase of 60% of the native bees in the area. Now that does mean that you can't be spraying your yard and killing off everything else, because the turf grass we have is not native and doesn't actually provide very much back to our ecosystem. So just having grass in your yard is not providing back to the bees, but if you have things and let some clover show up, even dandelions, violets, which is actually our state flower, those sort of things are really supporting our bees. So even if you don't have time or money or want to put in a ton of native plants in a garden setting, just not mowing as much can make a big difference. This is just a personal picture of what my backyard looked like a few years after we moved in. The people ahead of us ripped out every tree, plant, bush, everything in the yard, and it's a long, narrow lot in Lombard. And so they left us with the clean slate, I guess, which was it was still kind of odd, but we decided we wanted to start small and then expand. So then over the years, we've created this pocket prairie in the back of our yard, which personally I think is a lot prettier than the falling down fence of my neighbors in the back there. So plus, this really has added so much kind of joy and amusement of getting to see all the different wildlife that are coming to our yard now. There are many different bird species that come because of all the different insects that are in there, pollinating and hanging out there. It's just been, exponential in the number of different birds and different types of wildlife that we get to see. So I'd rather have the picture on the right than the picture on the left. So quickly, I just wanted to also, leave you with some short tips of how you can support pollinators in your own yard. Again, every little bit counts, and every little bit could be, planting a certain plant in your yard could be, what saves a certain pollinator because they were able to stop over and take a drink of nectar or even rest or use it as a host plant. So planting native plants is definitely the #1 way to support pollinators. If again, you either are short on space, time, or inclination to create a whole native plant garden, just planting these 5 families of plants supports 75% of the insects in our area. So these are really important plants for our pollinators. So black-eyed Susans, which are always nice and happy to see. Asters, goldenrod, which is not ragweed. Ragweed's the one that makes you sneeze. Goldenrod doesn't. Milkweed, which everyone knows is also a really wonderful monarch butterfly plant. And then oaks. Oaks are super important, actually the most important plant and tree in our area. It supports over 900 species of wildlife because when you count how many moths and butterflies use it as a host plant, is it like up to almost 300 different types of species. Then also the acorns that are on the tree, all the animals that eat that. And then also what animals eat those animals. When you're counting the food web and kind of going out that way, it's over 900 species, which blows away almost every other tree and plant that we have. So if you have the space, oaks are really important, or if you're trying to save an oak on your property, it is a really worthy cause. 2 would be minimizing pesticide use. So pesticides would be both herbicides and insecticides, and that does harm pollinators. I was just having a conversation with someone about mosquito spraying, and that's not just killing mosquitoes. That is killing basically anything else the chemicals touch that are pollinators too. But a way to, no one wants mosquitoes around. So ways to help with natural pest control. So a great example of using a plant in order to attract a predator of something that you don't want in your yard. So if you grow tomatoes in your yard, you can plant a rattlesnake master, which is a very interesting looking plant. Sounds cool too, but it's a yucca plant, and so it looks like it shouldn't be native to Illinois, but it is. And so it attracts the parasitic wasp that then takes care of the tomato hornworms that can destroy your tomato plants. So by just planting something else near one of the plants that you're trying to save, you can help yourself without having to spray your tomatoes with a pesticide too. And yeah, diversity equals resilience. So the more plants and things that you have, different types of things that you have in your yard, the more that you're inviting to your yard that can take care of other things like aphids and things that are, are true pests to our yards. Again, there's some other insect or animal that will come and eat that if you just kind of invite them in a different way too. This one's the easiest one. Just be lazy. Delay, don't clean up in the fall, let things sit in the winter, and then delay cleaning up in the spring because there are so many insects, including butterflies and moths, that utilize the debris of the plants that have been spent for the growing season. They use the stems, like over on the right here, the carpenter bees, they literally are laying the eggs of their next generation in those stems. So if you clear it away too quickly, you're taking away the next generation of those insects. And then the swallowtail butterfly on the left here, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't be able to see it. That's only about this big, hanging off a branch that, you'd be sweeping that away and into, refuse bags and then taken to somewhere else. But if you just let it be a little bit. You don't have to leave it all over your yard. You can even, if you really don't like the look of the dead plant matter that's just staying there, like the stems and things, you can gently cut it down to a lower spot, gather it together, and then kind of put it in a pile in the back of your yard so that they're still able to access it. You're not crushing it. You're not getting rid of it completely. They can still use it, and then you don't have to see it if you don't like it too. But I love leaving my coneflowers, my echinacea up because the goldfinches love it and will eat those seeds like well into the winter, and then other birds like it too. So it's a nice bird feeder as well. Number 4 would be thinking about continuous blooms. So not only it's nice because then you get lovely flowers throughout the entire growing season, but actually that then means you're providing for pollinators throughout every part of the growing season too. So kind of planning things out from early spring to late fall, so you always have something bloom. And number 5 being clump planting. So depending on how now this is very clustered. This is actually a close-up picture of my own little pocket prairie back there. Things don't have to be that close together, but when you're thinking about each individual type of plant or flower, clustering them together is actually really helpful for our pollinators because then they can find that specific, so actually I can't remember, I think it's a very large number, like 80% of our local like moth and butterflies are specialists in that they only need a very specific plant in order to be a host plant. So a good example being the monarch, and only able to lay eggs on milkweed because that's what their caterpillar stage will be eating later on. So there's plenty of those types of examples. So when you're able to plant these plants and that butterfly is able to see these black-eyed Susans and it's a whole group of them, they've hit the jackpot and been able to actually, take as much nectar and pollen as they can without having to spend a lot of energy to find where the next spot is that they can collect the resources. So, a few steps away to you is very small, but to a little tiny, our native bees are usually very, very small. I feel like a football field to them to try and get to the next flowers. It's a lot of energy spent. And plus it also, for you, it makes it easier to weed because you can be like, okay, all of these things look the same. So in the springtime when it's just green things coming up, you can kind of identify which ones you may want to take out of there and weed. And then finally, I just thought it would be nice to also give a list of climate-resistant plants because our storms are getting ever increasingly intense with the amount of water that's coming down in a shorter amount of time, as well as what we've seen too with these 90-degree days in June, longer drought periods in between when we're getting rain too. So here's just a quick list of plants, including oaks, that are a little bit more generalist and kind of handle different changing climate that's coming, or the different weather conditions that come with climate change too. I do have an asterisk with Indian grass. Don't plant that if you have a small area because it will take over like everything. So, but it's also can survive a lot of different types of weather coming through. And then finally, I do want to mention that part of our Conservation at Home program, we do run a rain barrel program. So we work with Upcycle Products where they actually upcycle food storage shipping containers and make them into the rain barrels as well as composters too. So just having a quarter inch of rain falling on an average home gives you over 200 gallons of water. Now these rain barrels only hold 55 gallons of water at a time, but it's a really great way to save some money on water, on your watering bill. But even if you're not doing that, it's still very helpful for the rest of the community to have that 55 gallons be held in that rain barrel and not be getting, flushed down your driveway into our stormwater systems that are completely inundated at this point because of, again, the storms are dumping a lot more water faster. Plus, with bigger and more bigger houses and more concrete getting put in, there's not as much space for that water to just get soaked into the ground. So keeping 55 gallons away from the rest of the stormwater system until like a dry day is even just helpful that you're not continuing to kind of inundate it that way too. So we sell these at the farm. You can either pre-order on our website or come and pick one up on Thursdays from 1 to 5. You'll come and see me. And the nice thing is that they're really well made. They have the screens in there so that the adult mosquitoes can't get in and lay eggs in the water that's sitting in there. Because sometimes it's interesting. It's a very simple mechanism of what a rain barrel is. It just needs to collect the water and then be able to take the water out. But we've heard, because of people coming and buying our rain barrels after getting something from one of the big box stores, that it just wasn't set up right, it was hard to get the water out, or it was letting in mosquitoes. So not only are ours tested and well made, but also they're actually a little bit cheaper too, because they are upcycled. But it's nicer because it's even greener than being recycled. So it's just going, rather than getting broken down and created into something else, it's just automatically going into getting the spigot and a few other things fitted on there too. But oh, sorry, one last thing I do want to mention, just because it is a nice thing to know. If you live in an HOA, they are no longer able to tell you can't plant native plants in your yard, or vegetable gardens for that matter. So that came through last year as an Illinois law. And coming up, but we don't know when, it hasn't gone to committee yet, is that they're trying to have that so that municipalities can't do that as well. That specifically if it's native plants that aren't, reaching over into your neighbor's yards or the sidewalks, and that it's not noxious weeds. Because that is the other thing, that we don't want people that just let their yards go and don't do anything to maintain it, because that's just inviting invasive species to come in and just take over a lot of stuff. So it's when it's intentionally planted with native plants and not having thistle and all this other stuff that nobody really wants around too. But so with that, that's, if anyone has any questions or would like to sign up for a free yard visit, I'm happy to talk. Yes.
So I don't know what other people do, but we have we have a sprinkler system that waters, every other day.
Yeah.
So can you hook the sprinkler system up to the rain barrel?
You could, but it probably wouldn't run for very long, because your sprinkler system's probably putting out more than what is in the barrel.
Okay.
Because you'd be surprised, because I use the rain barrel and just do a watering can, actually a couple watering cans, and then get my steps in to go water things. But the other nice thing about native plants is that once they're established, you don't have to water them, because they evolved here. They're used to like our rain and drought times too. But even just using the watering can, it usually can deplete it pretty quickly. But what you can do is get, maybe in addition to your sprinkler system, you can also get, I haven't tried it myself, but I want to, they have like little solar motors that you can hook up to the rain barrel so that it has water pressure, so that you can use a hose on it. It wouldn't necessarily be too, you can always test it out too. I've never, at least use it, and then once that runs out, we go back up to something. Yeah. So. Yes.
You are located in DuPage.
Technically, we're in Will County, but yes, right outside of
So you're the end. Okay. Do you coordinate with the other counties like King County, which has a conservation program like this?
Oh yeah, so we serve Kane, Kendall, Will, and DuPage.
You do?
Yeah.
So your information and your database and everything that goes with it is being disseminated throughout that area?
Yeah. Yes.
Excellent.
Hey, Beth, do you work with the school districts?
I do. Actually, we just launched, we've worked with schools actually throughout the 20 years of this program, but just last year we were doing a pilot program called Conservation in School to work with teachers and administration to put in pollinator gardens at the schools, to then also take it a step further, not just have it just be a garden, but also work with teachers to kind of build it into their curriculum as well, so that the kids are really experiencing nature and learning about pollinators too. So anyone is interested, please let me know.
One other question, you sell rain barrels, do you sell plants?
We have an annual native plant and vegetable sale the weekend of Mother's Day every year, but we don't sell them normally. We just sell the vegetables that are grown that you can eat right away by yourself all the time.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate
I
it.
noticed you had some brochures and stuff.
Yes, if anyone is interested, I have brochures about the Conservation at Home program, specifically about Conservation at Home, Conservation Foundation, and our organization in general, and then also just about rain barrels too, if you're interested in those. And I also have my card too, if anyone wants to take it, has any questions, you can follow up.
All right.